Hello, everyone. Welcome to Intelligent Future, Navigating AI in Society, a podcast dedicating to exploring the intricate world of artificial intelligence and its impact on our lives. I'm your host, Mohammed Amin Kahel, an associate professor at Zayed University. And in each episode, we dive deep into the different ways AI shapes our daily experiences and the challenges it presents and the future it's forging. Today, in our inaugural episode titled Bias in AI, we will unravel the complex layers of AI algorithms and the biases they can carry, exploring how these biases affect everything from societal norms to individual decisions. I'm very happy to introduce our guest, Dr. Ashraf Khalil, who is a professor of computer science at Zayed University. Dr. Khalil holds a PhD in computer science from Indiana University and is a well-known figure in many fields, including human-computer interaction, ubiquitous computing, social and mobile computing, and bioinformatics. With over 50 publications in top journals and conferences, Dr. Khalil is a beacon of innovation and scholarship. His research, backed by prestigious grants from entities like ADIC, Emirates Foundation, and Google, addresses crucial societal issues with cutting-edge technology. Dr. Khalil recently authored an important paper titled Investigating Bias in Facial Analysis Systems, a systematic review, shedding light on the inherent biases in AI systems, particularly in facial analysis. This paper stands at the intersection of technology and society, echoing the theme of our podcast and making Dr. Khalil the perfect guest to discuss the nuances of AI biases. Dr. Khalil, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you
happy
very
to
much.
have
Thank you for having me.
you. Awesome. So,
I'm glad to be
Dr.
with you,
Khalil,
Mohammed.
thanks. Yes, I'm really thrilled to have you. Dr. Khalil, could you explain to our listeners and viewers what prompted you to investigate biases in AI, and particularly in facial analysis systems?
So I'm a user of AI like anyone else nowadays, and I always approach things with with an investigative mindset, being a researcher as well. And I have done research on AI and medical imaging, and so I'm a user of the AI in the research field and applied AI in different disciplines. So yeah, I approach AI with sometimes skepticism, sometimes optimism, and one of the studies that I came across and made a stir in the media was conducted by MIT researcher, lady from, I cannot remember the name actually, but seminal work, and she looked at the different facial recognition systems by companies, by famous companies from Google, Amazon, and some other famous recognition systems. And she tried to see if they recognize faces, white faces, as much as they recognize black faces. And to her surprise, or maybe not surprise, I guess, depends how you look at it. But she found, of course, that if you give most of these, all the systems actually were performing better with white faces than black faces. And to different
So by performing better, you mean like the AI system detects a white face with more accuracy than a black face?
Correct. And sometimes they didn't even detect black faces as a human, and sometimes, and this is, it seems like it's annoying to certain people, but this has more than serious implications beyond that, because if you think of maybe not even in the future anymore, if you think of autonomous cars where they can detect accident, they can avoid, if there is accident, they can avoid people. If they cannot detect your face, then you're more likely to get an accident. So it's
100%.
I can think of a million other scenarios where it can put you at disadvantage, put you at dangerous situations. So it's not inconvenience, or it's just something you can brush off as
it's not a luxury.
It's not a luxury.
It could be detrimental in certain situations.
Exactly. And this is
so. Is it the color of the face, or is it the facial features that's the issue? when it comes to
I
detecting?
mean, she didn't really dig into the reasons for that, but I mean, of course, there are well-known reasons. You can basically why the I mean, we understand why the bias is there because the data was, I mean, the training data set was more white prominent
Cases.
based, but what the AI themselves learn from these, is it the features, is it the skin color, is it what kind of feature they learn and to better detect? And I'm sure it's a combination of all of these things. But but nobody can tell you exactly how much skin color is
Sure,
based on the features there, because this is
sure.
the magic, or this is not the magic, but this is the one of the limitations of the AI systems. It's kind
Uh-huh.
of black boxes sometimes. You don't know
Excellent,
which features played more role
excellent.
in the outcome, certain outcome.
So that brings up another dimension to our conversation, which is a new research field that's emerging right now, which is explainable AI. So do you think part of the issue of inherently biased AI systems is that they're not explainable, that we don't really know how they work? Or is it mainly the lack of diverse data that the system was trained on?
I mean, it's definitely, it has to do with the data, but and as you said, the explainable AI is an emerging field, and it's very much needed field. But
Mhm.
it will help us to understand why certain outcome came to be this way. What kind of data played a major role? What was the source of bias? What was the source of the decision making? And and as I think we can definitely make better, but I don't think it will be a bulletproof solution in that sense, because at the end of the day, if your source of data is not is biased, then explainable AI will at least it would at least will be a tool in certain people's hand to figure out why it's biased.
Wonderful.
But it will not solve the bias itself.
Wonderful.
It will be a
But
tool
but
to
at least it gives some transparency to the system.
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so I have a question regarding the training, the data training. So do you? I have a feeling that these incidents or these examples of data that the AI system was trained on, it was just an innocent mistake that the researchers didn't really foresee that. They had a limited data set and they needed to train the system based on what they had. And as such, they didn't necessarily mean for the system to be biased. Would you agree with that, or would you think no, there is an inherent bias in the design itself when the designers designed the systems?
I mean, we can argue about the intention, of course, and we can claim it's good intention, but
Mhm.
we cannot argue about the outcome and the implications of that.
Sure.
And the implications are serious, significant, detrimental, and the more and soon enough will be really life in this situation.
Mhm.
So, and I hope this is a message for everyone, but especially researchers and developers and regulators to understand this cannot be left to the intention of the developer, if it's good intention or
Mhm.
not. And these are serious applications. People are going to be using them in to make serious decisions.
Mhm.
And I think we need to approach them with a huge grain of salt and make sure that the bias is addressed. We need to test them thoroughly and irrespective of the intention of the developers or the company behind developing that. And I'm not for assuming the best intention because we know companies, we know what
Excellent.
drives them, and we need to be as societies we need to ought put. I mean, we ought to put some
Wonderful.
guardrails and policies
Excellent.
and and proceed. So, but I want to go back to what drives me to that actually.
Mhm.
When I mentioned
Excellent.
the AI paper, uh,
Mhm.
before that actually, even before that, I was teaching
Mhm.
courses, and sometimes we give even before Corona, sometimes we give quizzes where we use the respondents lockdown browser. This is like if you teach using
In
Blackboard.
academia, which means that you control the environment that the student uses when they take a quiz or an exam.
Exactly. So it's just to proctor an exam remotely and using AI. So
Mhm.
you open the cam and supposed to tell when you
Wonderful.
look
Sure.
away from the
If you are
computer.
distracted, or if you are looking away, or if you are looking at your phone or something along those lines.
Exactly. So I had a student from with a dark skin from Sudan, and he called me, doctor, the system will not log me in because in the beginning I had a condition,
Oh God. Okay.
detect the face before you allow the student to get in the exam.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
So the student will not able to get in. And he
mhm.
said, I put the light on, and this poor student did not
Sure, sure. He
know what
didn't
he's
know the
using it.
issue. Yeah.
And I immediately realized it is this AI system not
Yes.
able to recognize his face. I couldn't even tell him that,
Mhm.
unfortunately, because
Sure, sure. Because that, yeah, of course, that's
it's just
definitely,
a huge letdown.
yeah, yeah,
You see, this is a simple example that happened to me for a student being disadvantaged now, not able to get an exam. Imagine this was
exactly.
a medical exam or
Yeah, yeah.
a board
It
like
could be
a
an emergency. It
board.
could be an emergency situation. Yeah.
Exactly. And so this kind of situation, and this was early on. So people train the system. The developers came, and probably most of them are white, and sit that down,
Yes.
and they try to test the system, and it worked for them.
Exactly. And it worked for them. Yeah.
And they thought, okay, now we can release it.
Mhm.
Maybe they had good intention. They had bad intention. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it
Yeah,
has
sure.
real implications
Exactly. Yeah,
on their.
the outcome is not helpful for certain individuals. So, what other ways can bias in AI manifest? Like we talked about the poor face recognition when it comes to the diversity of the different races and the skin color and so on and so forth. What other forms of biases can we see today in AI systems?
These are
Um,
these are
yeah.
these are countless biases,
Mhm.
Muhammad. There are countless biases, and some of them we already know, and
Mhm.
some of them we don't know even. It's just inherent. I mean, these are some people think AI. These are some kind of super intelligence system that came from outside the world, and they're teaching us. These are output of human work. These are
Exactly.
our human intellect, collective human
Exactly.
intellect. And it
Exactly.
and as a human, as societies, we have a lot of problems, and they
Mhm.
are manifest themselves in equality, in education, in homelessness, in wars, and all of these
Mhm.
things.
Yes.
And there is very smart people are debating on serious issues, and they're not able to figure this out.
Mhm.
And they can see societies going in the wrong direction sometimes.
Mhm.
A lot. So if these don't expect the AI will be somehow fair
Solve the
and
issue.
exactly, and be somehow it will pass us and uh, transcend us. I mean, and in terms of
Yeah.
moral values and uh, and come with a better value system, it will
Mhm.
inherently carry all of these weaknesses and problems.
Exactly.
And actually,
Exactly.
I would argue it will amplify them actually even more because of the power it has.
To help our audience a little bit, I think the example of facial recognition was very powerful. I'm also thinking about the financial system. Could there be a bias towards a certain, background of some individuals? Let's say, for instance, when they are applying for a loan, just because that person lives in a certain area, or like, could there be certain biases in that way as well that affect
I'm sure there
society?
will. I'm sure there
Mhm.
will because at the end of the day, the AI systems for our audience, they're just as I said, they're black boxes in a way. I mean, I don't like to use black box
Sure.
metaphor because this really gives the tech companies, the best perfect alibi that I did not. It's a black box. Nobody understands
Exactly.
what we did,
Exactly.
so I
Yeah.
don't have to do anything from my part. So in a
Mhm.
way, they use it as a excuse not to do their part and
Mhm.
to amplify all the biases and to use it in the whatever. But when they don't, it's not in their benefits.
Yeah.
They deal with these biases
Mhm.
and they make sure their interest is protected. It's not black boxes when it comes to their interest.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes it is a black box that, like, as users. So for instance, let me bring up the example of GPT-4, which I'm a regular user of, and GPT-4 has the ability to generate images. So I'm participating in a workshop, and we wanted to show the audience an example of how powerful GPT-4 is in generating images. And I fed it information about me, my background, my biography. And then I asked it just for fun, can you show a picture of me? And then GPT-4 smartly asked me to give it description like hair color, eye color, and so on and so forth. But then I told it, hey, just do your best. I refused to give it any description. And then it showed me this European-looking man wearing a suit, which obviously I'm not. So that was the assumption. I don't know how come that was the assumption, but it's
it
amazing.
Could be as simple as you told them you have a PhD, and they think PhD are smart people and they have high income and most likely to be European. So there are a lot of biases there, and it could be definitely hard to detect where this comes from. But we can do better for sure. We can do better, and if it is and the best, if it is a black box, but it's a damaging black box, not perfect, we shouldn't have to release it. It's simple as that. It's not like it's just a black box. We don't release robot killers in the street saying it's the black box. I mean, we ought to think of what these black boxes doing. And
excellent.
So the point
I totally agree. Now let's say that you are okay. So different hierarchies have different responsibilities. If I'm a user, my responsibility is probably smaller, but I still have responsibility. If I'm a company, if I'm an institution, I have a bigger responsibility. So let's say, like, I'm an institution, we just acquired this AI system, and one of the employees or the clients, they reported a bias. What should the company do at this point?
I mean, that's a very good question, but it's not. I don't think even should let to the company discretion, because companies will just either brush it off or maybe do something about it, or maybe they don't have anything to do about it. Just they bought the system and they cannot do much. That's just how it is. But I think there should be regulators out there, and they should put regulations that prevent bias and make a procedure what happens when they detect bias. And sometimes we need to punish these tech companies, and put some maybe I don't like to call it punishment, but put some make limitations on what tech companies can produce and can release, and that makes them think 10 times before they release certain products. And they also invest more in addressing the concerns of companies. For example, if you don't have limitations and punishments and regulators to tell them they ought to take into consideration the customers' feedback and solve them immediately, then they might brush them off. And they say, but the next release, which might come after a year or two, they might address it. So the regulator should step in, I think.
Okay, so there has to be some established law that would totally be against any bias, and it has to be clear, and as such that will allow individuals and institutions to report violations in that case.
Correct. And I think that, I mean, it's easier said than done, of course, because the bias itself is,
you have to prove it, and that takes time.
Yeah, and not only that, sometimes it's it's case by case, and some people it's very hard to detect sometimes if it's not obvious. And it's not, and we know the biases that we already found out about, but I mean, imagine all the biases we don't know about.
Yes,
that's inherent in the data.
Yes.
So it's harder to prevent things that you don't know yet. But I'm sure we can do better in terms of, because now we just trust the tech company, a handful of tech company, to do the best for humanity. And this is too dangerous to be left in hands of tech companies.
Wonderful. So there is Yeah, so sorry to interrupt. So there's I heard that some advocates that are saying that you should treat IT products, algorithms, AI-based systems as things that people consume. So as content, as food, as like anything that we consume needs to be examined and needs to be scrutinized. But I feel that this is really difficult to do. Like imagine that the regulation bodies will inspect, all these AI systems out there. Um, is that a practical solution?
It's when it, I mean, it's practical, I think, because the implications are serious, Muhammad. Like a drug, we don't we it's very well regulated drug. Finance, it's not like we never regulated things that scrutinize them very well because we know they are critical. We know they have the power of undermining human citizens' life. So we regulated them, and FDA regulate every single drug. It's not an easy process. It has a lot of flaws in
Mhm.
it,
Sure,
but
sure.
it's not lit for drug company just to because we want not to harm innovation. We just let drug companies release and their own
Oh,
drugs.
yes,
So, and we regulate banking, we very well, in finance industry very well. So it's
correct.
not unheard of. We have experience with that, and when we think things are critical for the well-being of society, we regulate them. And I think, but always tech companies, they always raise the card of innovation, and you don't want to stifle innovations, and you don't want to. I mean, it's good card to always to raise, stifling innovation, and this and governments, uh, they always worry of, they don't want to seem like they are disadvantaging their own economy and putting limitations on tech companies, because tech companies is very fluid, it very easily can move from it's not like other industry where you have physical assets, you have to move them. And so tech companies very fluid. So countries try to be very wary of putting limitations, but I think that's where global efforts can be useful here. It's not one country should also be in charge of regulating, because also you will have biases based on that country. So I think this should be a
So this
global
could
effort.
be, yeah, wonderful. So this could be one of the missions of the UN as well, to have AI on top of its agenda, because AI is like a double-edged sword. It has great benefits, but it could also have some negative effects on the society, and one of them is bias, which we discussed today.
100%.
Wonderful, a great conversation. We're getting closer to the end of this show. So what message would you like to leave our audience, our viewers, our listeners with?
I mean, as excited as they should be about AI, I think they should also be very. It's not a pessimistic message or optimistic message. Somebody said tech is not all good or not all bad, or neither neutral. So it's not good, not bad, not neutral either. So it's not neutral, and I know it's double edged. It can be good and bad, uh, but it's all about what we make out of it. And there's a lot of ways it can go wrong, and beyond the comprehension of any individual, really, because it's in every certain aspect for our life. And we didn't discuss AI and wars and killing machines and
Sure.
there's so many things going on nowadays. And I think the average citizen should really approach AI with a lot. I mean, it's not, you can learn, you can take advantage of it, but don't let this excitement blind you from all the side effects, the negative side effects that can come out of it. And we ought to be aware of all the negative things that can. Bias is one of them, of course, but surveillance. And we're not even getting into the
Sure.
drones that kill or
Sure.
anything like that.
Sure. Sure.
We
Sure.
can get
Sure.
into that and start going to the end of like a third
Sure.
world war and
It
fourth
could be
one.
another episode for sure. It could be
Uh,
another episode.
This
Yeah.
is these are serious implications in our life, and as and tech companies, they always gonna and the media, they always gonna be jumping onto these new tools, exciting tools, and when they forget the side effects. And when I hope it's not too late when you become more aware of the side effects, and maybe there is very little we can do about it then. So it's very good as the average citizen, the average company, the average and governments, state actors to be very worried about the AI's implications, and they understand the good and the bad side of it, and try to make sure we avoid the bad side. And I really hope we don't reach a limit or a time where everything is enforced on us in a way. AI is, you have no choice but to chat with the AI bot, to reach customer service. You have no choice but to pass by
Wonderful.
AI
Wonderful.
system. And I hope the average person can always opt out. Whatever we do with the AI, opt out of the AI. If they can.
Some of wonderful. Some of our viewers might be parents. Do you think parents also are affected in terms of like the AI systems that children are consuming? I mean, children today use digital tutors, for instance, that are AI based. I'm sure they get recommendations from AI when they're browsing certain content platforms. So should parents be particularly worried about dangers of AI, bias in AI?
I think you can be worried at every level, Muhammad, as a parent, as an educator, as a human, as at every single level. I think we should approach it with a big grain of salt. Like I'm an educator, and I also see how students are using it, and I'm also I think it has a negative side effects as much as it supports students. But I'm very worried about that as an educator, as a parent, also as a human, as a as as a person coming from a certain culture, from a certain political system. I'm also worried. So at every single level, I'm worried about my culture, my values, it's at every single level you ought to be worried because
But
these are not.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, there isn't like a magic wand when it comes to this problem, meaning that I don't think there is. Maybe there is. I'm not sure that there is a tool that I can use and then just give it this AI system, and then it will tell me, "Hey, this system is biased in this, this, this." As of now, it looks like I have to do my homework and I have to be vigilant and I have to just be aware and educated on the topic, right? There isn't like a magic solution to this issue.
This is where the problem is, Muhammad. Also, you assume, I mean, the AI is coming with it's hard to compete with with this
Sure.
universal data set
Sure.
and the biases in it. So it's sometimes it's beyond the comprehension of an average human being mind to figure out all this. And this is where the danger is sometimes. We're going to be detecting the obvious ones, but what about the unobvious
Subtle
ones?
one. Yeah.
They are subtle, they are much more dangerous, they are much more affecting whole humanity as a whole. And these are the hard to detect one. And you really, it's hard to expect the average citizen to understand this article is biased. When you want an article, trying to find out information, and this is what you get from the AI. How do you supposed to figure out this bias? It's not accurate. It's not. It's pushing certain agenda. It's not a simple task.
Which this problem existed before AI, but now it's amplified, basically.
It's amplified big time. I mean, before you have Google, it's biased. Of course, it gives you 10 options, but you can still go to the second page, the third page, the fourth page. You can still collect different viewpoints. I mean, you can always say, well, search engine ranking is also biased. It can.
Sure.
But you have much more options of digging deeper. You're seeing and deciding. Now you have just article that's spit out by certain systems, and you're supposed to take it as is without even no reference. And And I think part of it is done in purpose, because it's part of, they just want to say it's all automated, it's black box, we have nothing to do with biases, but it is. If you dig deeper, you can see all the biases out there, human biases, all human biases out there in every single article they give you. And so ask them about some contingent issue, for example, political issues. They will give you the answer that is that correct in that time, in that context, in that country that they're operating in, And this is the best obvious example of the bias. And sometimes the people are going to be using like Wikipedia. It manifested all the biases for humanity and the weakness of humanity before the AI, but it's a smaller, think of it as a smaller
yes.
test bed for
And
the
it's
bias.
and it's not interactive and it's not as convincing. Whereas when you have AI and it knows how to convince you, that's much more profound for sure.
And we know how much also Wikipedia bias and how much state actors and non-state actors with certain malicious intention, they try to bias certain agenda and push certain agenda in the Wikipedia. And we know how much human even out there trying to make sure only the correct information resurfaces to the top. But with that, we have all the biases.
Excellent. But then with social media, sometimes when there is like a topic, a controversial topic that's being posted, you see a disclaimer at the end that this is disputed because people contest this post. So perhaps we can see more of that in AI systems. If a topic is deemed as biased, or if, let's say, a certain algorithm, a certain formula used in the financial system that someone deems as biased, then a conversation could start, and the AI has to be interactive. The AI has to get feedback from people, and as such, the more feedback it gets, hopefully the better it becomes. So what I'm saying is that there has to be pushback against bias in an interactive way between AI and people.
100%. But beyond that, as if we don't solve our own biases, Muhammad, as a human,
exactly.
I don't think we're going to create unbiased system.
Yeah, so it's an inherently human problem. Exactly.
So we can spend all the time in the world trying to solve the artificial AI bias, but inherently we need to focus on our own biases as a human and make sure that we minimize our own bias, because by default this will reflect in the systems we build and the behavior we do every day. And system is just a manifestation of our certain behavior. So maybe we need to focus on our own biases as a human.
Excellent. And with that, I will end today's topic. Thank you so much, Dr. Khalil. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Wishing you all the best, and thank you for our audience, and see you on a new episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.